This is a video about abstraction and specificity. To elaborate, most games turn complex actions into single button presses. If I want to get into a vehicle and start it up, I open the door, sit in the seat, put the key in the ignition, turn it about 45 degrees clockwise, release it at a certain point as to not flood the engine, and then I can shift it into reverse and drive away. In Half-Life 2, I just press E. Vehicles aren't the topic of this video, but it's a good jumping on point. Reloading. In most video games, you press R, watch an animation that someone worked really hard on, or just watch the gun sloop off the screen, and then you're good to go after a preset amount of time. If you're really lucky, having a round in the chamber gives you a slightly different animation. Reloading in video games traces its roots back to arcade light gun games, where you simply shot anywhere but the screen to restock your ammo. Nowadays, we don't play those games very often, because there's a pandemic going on. System Shock brought reloads to FPSes, and GoldenEye made us all expect that you'd have to slap a single button to get your gun a snack. These days, nearly every mainstream FPS fan thoroughly expects the actual act of removing a magazine, fetching a new one, loading it into the magwell, racking the bolt. All of that should just require a single button press. I think, for this reason, a lot of people are shocked or startled when in VR titles you have to do that work yourself. Many first-time players of games like Pavlov VR just expect it to work like non-VR titles. And while there definitely are VR titles where reloading is a one-button deal, we're not here to beat a dead game. In most VR titles, you have to perform the whole animation yourself. Eject the mag, grab a fresh one, load it into the gun, actually operate the bolt. And in particularly nerdy games, weapons like the AK might only let you chamber around if the safety is disengaged. One could probably assert that these games are more about reloading than shooting, and I know someone who would assert that. It's me. See, there's no easy way to unabstract shooting in games. Gamepads and VR controllers alike use a large analog trigger to simulate the large analog trigger built in the most sensible weaponry. But because the VR is striving for that weird hyper-real immersion that doesn't mean anything due to how non-specific that term is, everything about the weaponry will be at least casually simulated. For this video, I am using Rust Limited's venerable hot dogs, horseshoes, and hand grenades. Again, it's a game that more than casually simulates these weapons. It's also the only VR title I actually own. Lead programmer and developer Anton Hand has gone through the trouble to simulate every major moving part in every firearm you can get your hands on. Gas and sparks lead the barrel through any ports or gaps it can find, and that alters how much force the weapon kicks with. The trigger and bolt assembly are all simulated, not animated, and weapons have the equivalent of their real-world mass, and their projectiles behave according to detailed and realistic ballistics simulations. You shoot at hot dogs. Just roll with it, man. It is telling that the tutorial scene in H3VR spends more time explaining how to begin firing your weapon of choice instead of just how to fire it. Whether you're holding a pistol, a shotgun, an M4, whatever this is, or literal cardboard, you have to perform a ritual of sorts before you can start firing. Grab your magazine or your bullets, get them ready to duplicate, grab them, load them in, chamber your first round, take it off the safe, and... you know, simple. And then you go bang, bang, bang all day long until everything just clicks. It clicks because you're out of ammo. It's time to reload, buddy. Dump your magazine, grab a new one, put the thing in the other thing, and then... yeah, like that. And for more complex weapons, the act of firing stays about the same, save for ridiculous contraptions like the Stinger, but the act of reloading becomes wildly more complicated. It's not just about whether you can stick the magazine in the gun and pull a thing back. Okay, most carbines are exactly like that, but you have to find the thing to pull back. It's not just the top half of the gun anymore. If it's an AK, better take it off a safe before you pull that bolt back. Or even if it's not an AK, there's a lot of weapons that do that. But you have to figure it out by playing the game. Having some knowledge, even from other games, helps. Got a belt-fed machine gun? I've seen them crack open the back half to load bullets, and oh, would you look at that? But all of this is imperative for this game's main mode, take and hold. Sure, aiming your weapon is definitely a high priority task, but actually shooting your guns isn't what makes or breaks your ability to succeed. Most guns operate the same as one another, so you needn't worry about how they fire. What is important, though, is your ability to reload. Being able to quickly and dexterously swap magazines, or better yet, being able to replace a nearly empty mag with a fresh one and keep a round in the chamber, will make or break your ability to make it to later holds. H3VR is a first-person reloader. And this all seems really, well, duh, right? I mean, in every FPS, your ability to keep rounds in your gun is imperative to success, even in games that aren't FPSs that just have guns. But H3VR takes it a step further because reloading isn't so heavily abstracted. While Mr. Man Halo here will perfectly slot the magazine into the well of his F2000 space gun thing every single time, it's a lot harder for you to do that when the pressure's on. What do you do when you're being shot at and you miss the magazine well? What if the weapon you're holding has an awkward magazine position like the G11? Do you risk doing a fancy mag lever smack to replace the banana mag of your AK, or do you opt for the simple rip it out, stick a new one in? What if you accidentally chuck all your revolver ammo all over the place? Oh god dang it. And it's worth mentioning that H3VR isn't in the minority. Pretty much every other VR title offers similar unabstracted reloading mechanics. Boneworks, Pavlov, and Half-Life Alyx also ask you to dump your old mag, load a new one in, and chamber around. Though in these cases, weapons still behave a bit like their video game counterparts. In Alyx's case, you simply need to bring the magazine close enough to the gun for it to slot in place. These games still keep elements of their video gaming abstraction to ease players into VR, whereas Hot Dogs, Horseshoes, and Hand Grenades kinda just throws you to the wolves. Figure it out, good luck. That's not to say that one style is worth more than the other, though. H3VR is a tough sell to casual VR and casual FPS fans, as it is so in-depth, and things like bullet velocity and adjusting the minutes of angle on a sight, or the length and arshins between your Mosin 1891 and your target, are just plain frustrating to a casual player. But it features tons of fun additions for casual players as well. It's much more of a range simulator and a firearm simulator than an actual shooter game. Boneworks and Half-Life Alyx definitely are VR campaign shooters, so having super accurate realistic ballistics models and fully simulated weapons cuts into your CPU usage. You really don't have the opportunity to make a super detailed large space and a bunch of enemies and NPCs and map triggers and things with all that simulation going on at the same time. No one VR title is better at this than all the others in this regard, but H3VR's in-depth simulation of everything, from firing to even just reloading, has obviously given me a lot of respect for the game design that goes into these elements. If it didn't, this video wouldn't exist. So the next time you go to play your favorite VR shooter, really think about what you're doing when you reload. Think about the design challenges a dev might face in implementing something like this. Think about how physically reloading your gun might change the game design of an FPS rather than just hitting a button. And maybe do your own fun gimmick reload animation while you're at it. If you like this video and you'd like to see more, I'd recommend subscribing. Patreon and social media links are in the description.